there's little X's and O's. Defensively, one mistake can hurt you. It's the second mistake that kills you, right? So like for us in the game, it could be, all right, one mistake could be me getting beat off the dribble. Guy gets by me and beats me off the dribble. Well, if you're not where you're supposed to be next, that's the second mistake. That's what's going to kill us. The first mistake, we can adjust it, right? Like we get beat off the dribble, they drive into you. Okay, you're there to help. They got to get rid of the ball. And then we can scramble out and adjust. Again, if I don't do my job and then you don't do your job, we both make mistakes. That's when we're giving up 2 points, right? And that's a trivial basketball example, but in life, it's kind of the same, right? Like you can kind of navigate the first mistake. But then if we just go domino effect and we're all making the mistake, well, then that's when it ultimately hurts you.
Welcome to the New Generation Leader Podcast. We're giving you the tools you need to lead in the digital world. Ready to reach your true potential? This is the New Generation Leader Podcast.
I've heard people say two things about you. One, your intensity, and one, your intentionality. How do you approach balancing both of those in an everyday basis?
Well, I'll start with the intentionality because that's something we use a lot. We use that with our player development. We use that with our recruiting. We use that with just everything we're doing. Like, because I would tie that in with efficiency, right? Like if you're intentional, you're usually pretty efficient. You're not just wasting time going like, well, we're going to try this. We're going to do that. And then we're going to dip our toe over here. And you're just like, well, what did we do that for? Right. I've been around a lot of places and there's some that you just feel like, all right, like we just wasted that day. We just wasted that week. And I don't ever want to feel that way. So being intentional with that. The intensity part comes from, we're competitive. Like we're in a competitive sport. We're in a competitive business. And you got to have some of that. But also knowing when to dial it up and when to dial it back, right? And making sure that whether it's staff, whether it's players, whatever, they understand like we got to have that burning intensity in us at all times, but also knowing like this time of year, right? It's a little more calm. It's a little more laid back. But knowing like, and I said this to the staff a week ago, like we still have to be competitive on these days, right? Like there's something that we can be doing competitively better than our opponents. It might be a recruiting phone call. It might be an off-season project. It might be a phone call to one of the guys that's home just to check in. Like there's something that we can get a competitive advantage of. And I think that's where the intensity comes because, calling it what it is, like we're in this position to win, right? They don't bring you to a place like VCU and a program like this and say, hey, just try your best and that's going to be okay. No, at the end of the day, we have to win, but we have to win the right way with the right people. And you got to have an intensity about you to do that.
There's something interesting in hearing you describe it, even recognizing the seasons. Like not every day is the same. And the phrase I use all the time is you got to dial it in. We're in this world of do more, push more, harder, and intensity alone just leads you to burnout, but intentionality gets you to balance.
Yeah, for sure. And for us, like even in the flow of the season, right? Like you can't have that intensity level at a 10 every day from November 2nd to hopefully April, whatever.
Yeah.
Like you can't, there have to be those peaks and valleys to it. And that's something that I think we do a pretty good job of in the program of knowing like, all right, ramping it up. All right, we hit that point. All right, we need to bring it back down because now we have a couple of days and then we got to bring it back up and just finding that because you don't want to burn out, right? And if you're just high intensity, it's going to burn out at some point in time. And we certainly don't want that.
You're now a year in prepping for year two. So you look at the first year, you come in with that vision, the passion, the drive, the desire to win. You've got all these people, different people, players, coaching staff, that you've got to lead and steward and shepherd. How do you navigate figuring out who needs what on each day, not just at the team or program level, but taking it down to each individual?
Yeah, I mean, it's trying to be very cognizant. And even with that, you're going to miss some things, right? And it starts with having the right people around, right? Like the best advice I ever got from my dad was just be around good people. Didn't matter the job title, the level, the school, the name, whatever. It was just find good people, be around good people. So I really try intentionally to do that with bringing in the staff, right? And making sure that that's good people around. Like, are we perfect people? None of us are perfect. Do we have holes to our game? Yeah, we have holes to our game, but we're at the end of the day, I know I can go to any of those offices. I know that's a good person in there. So having good people that I can trust, that when, I'm trying to see everything and knowing it's hard to see everything all the time, knowing that there's people there that have the best interest of the program, of myself, of the players at heart. So that when they come to me and say, hey, we really need to think about this. We really need to look at this. We need to grab this guy. Or when I can say, hey, look, I know that guy's going through a tough time today. I don't have the time today to deal with it. I'll deal with it tomorrow, but I need you to have a preemptive conversation to kind of get him back on track, knowing that you can trust that. Right. And then in that locker room, having good people. Right. And what I've said often is not sacrificing talent for character, and that's not sacrificing character for talent. Right. Like we can get both at the highest level, and we need both at the highest level to do what we want to do. But not giving in to either one of those and saying, well, we'll take that less talented guy because he's really high character, or we'll take that, less character guy because he's really high talent. So when you have that, then it's a little bit easier to know, like, all right, I can feel those guys out a little bit more. I can read those guys a little bit better. You don't have as many of those crazy issues, right? Like the things that you're like, man, now I got to go spend my time and energy on this nonsense.
Yeah. The headlines.
Yeah. When now you can just focus on those things. So you're not pulled and distracted by stuff that doesn't really need to be involved. There's going to be emotions. There's going to be tough days. There's going to be emotional swings. You're going to deal with that stuff, right? You're going to deal with good days and bad days for yourself, your staff, and your players. But if you don't have to deal with all the extracurriculars, right, then you can hone in on that a little bit better. You're going to miss stuff. And having to be okay knowing, like, I'm going to miss something and I'm going to have to make up for that, right? And not having to be like, well, I got to be perfect every single day all the time.
Yeah. And clean it up.
Yes.
Chris and I were talking, I was at the Loyola game and we were talking about the first few minutes, and even you take a snapshot like that, it's like, what else could come against us at this moment? And yet it's that steady intentionality coming to fruition and bring it around to the outcome you're hoping for.
Yeah. And that's huge. And then, the other piece with that is consistency, right? So like, if you consistently stay this course, like, doesn't mean the course is going to be super smooth all the way through, but it means, hey, when it does veer off, you can get back on track. And, that's something that I take a lot of pride in with myself. Like, there are some coaches, leaders out there that ask for consistency from the people that are working with them or for them, but they don't give it themselves, right? And to me, it's like, we can't just be word on the board in the locker room, hey, consistency, and then we're inconsistent with what we're doing. Like, we got to be consistent. So that consistency helps get you back, right? And okay, like, we're off track here. Let's get back, right? Like, it's not big swings. It's not crazy adjustments. It's just stick with what we do. And we did that. This group in particular did that time and time again this year of like, okay, yeah, we're hitting a rough patch, but we get out of it. And it was no magic wand. There was no secret to it. It was just stay consistent with what we know is important, right? And when we did that, ultimately we won.
You obviously have strong core values that are driving what you're doing, how you're leading, how you're building the program. Take me back through your life and career. Where did some of those values come into your life and you lock them into, hey, this is me?
Yeah. It obviously starts with my parents, and I was super fortunate with winning the parental lottery, like having two parents that were extremely loving, extremely supportive, but also like when you need a reality check, you get the reality check, right? I think for me, growing up playing team sports, I was never really drawn to individual sports, right? I don't golf. I never played tennis, but the team sports, whether it was basketball or football or soccer or baseball, whatever it was, like, there just was something about that to me that always, engaged me. So for me, it's always just trying to be a great teammate, right? Like, I've never really been the best player in any team I played on. So for me, it's always goes back to that. But I could always be the best teammate. I might not be the best player, but I can be the best. I really look at this as that, right? Like, I'm part of the team. I have the title of head coach, but I'm part of the team. I'm also part of the team in the athletic department, right? So I'm part of the men's basketball team, but feel very much part of the athletic department team, right? So if it's, hey, women's soccer has a great win and then text them with them, or, baseball has a tough loss and you text them with them. And, you're going through that journey together. And then on campus, the same, like having that teammate, kind of idea like that was always something early on that I saw and just respected great teammates and like just had this like desire to be one of those. So, that to me is kind of the overarching piece of it. Then as you get through all these other things, like just going through things, right? Like my first couple of years, I knew I wanted to coach at an early age and learned a ton from my dad, played for him at St. Joe's and just there's so much of his fingerprints over what we do and who I am for sure. But then going to Central Connecticut, Manhattan, Niagara, Delaware, the 76ers / Delaware 87ers, back to St. Joe's, to Bryant, like there is some of those fingerprints and that DNA in everything we do, right? So like we could be sitting here on a given day and there's something I could say or do or a way I react. And my inner dialogue is going like, that was Joe Mihalik at Niagara. That was 2007, Joe Mihalik, Niagara. That's where I learned that, right? Like just having those things. Or like, hey, that was Monte Ross. That was 2013 at Delaware, Monte Ross. Like that's where that came, like, and not even consciously bringing that out, but it's just there, right? It just was ingrained being around those people. And I was really fortunate to be around a bunch of coaches who all did it different ways, who all had different ways, personalities and all those things and different things that were important to them, but little bits and pieces kind of seep in and kind of form my coaching DNA. And there were really hard moments in there. There were days you want to quit. There were days you're like, I don't know if this is for me. There were days you're questioning everything you ever knew about the profession, about whatever. And then you get to this point and you're like, man, I needed to go through every single one of those moments and it wouldn't change any of them. In the moment, I was calling home and going like, I can't do this anymore. I can't work here anymore. I can't be in this environment anymore. But then you step back from it, now you're removed 22, 23, 24 years later from different things. And you're going like, that was exactly what I needed at that time. I didn't know it. Or the jobs you think you really want, you don't get. Or the jobs you do get and you're like, oh, well, maybe this, like it's, to me, it's just crazy how it all works. And all of that stuff led to, hey, all right, me figuring out what's really important to you, right? And when you get an opportunity, what's going to be most important? And that's evolved becoming a head coach. There's things that I would have said to you 10 years ago, like, man, I will 100% do this as a head coach. And then I became a head coach. I'm like, yeah, that's not that important anymore, right? Because you have to go through that journey too, to figure out what's important there.
I feel like hitting 40, I'm 42. I feel like that completely changed that dynamic. At 22, I was like, I could do it all. And at 42, I'm like, I know what I was thinking.
And you want to impart that wisdom. Like there's young guys that we have, and maybe even some guys that haven't quite hit that point that I'm like, I wish I could just instill this wisdom in you. Probably, and the same way probably somebody was trying to do with me. But you have to learn it. You have to go through it and have your experience to learn it. And I'm like, some of these guys, I'm like, just slow down. Like it's going to work out for you. But again, I could go back 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and have to have that conversation with that version of myself, right? And be like, it's going to be okay. I know you think it has no chance of being okay right now, but it's going to be okay. And I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. In my life, my career, everything kind of points to that everything happens for a reason, right? And even when you're going through those tough times, and again, back to, your earlier questions about intentionality and intensity, like that's always there with me. So when we're going through something tough, there's always this, like, this is happening for a reason. You got to figure out the reason and make the best of it. But that's always sitting on my brain and on my shoulder of like, hey, I know this is tough right now, but it's happening. It's happening for a reason.
Is there a particular moment that you look back on and think, I was this close to going down a different fork in the road that would not have led you here?
Well, I'm going to say here just as a general, not necessarily here at VCU, but I'll go back to after my first year, and this is the example I always use. My first year at Central Connecticut, I'm a kind of a hybrid, like grad assistant, director of operations, assistant coach, kind of one of those roles. I'm not getting paid. And I got offered a grad assistant job at Clemson. In Central Connecticut and Clemson are two different stratospheres. And I went down there and basically like while I'm there, I'm like, well, I'm taking this job. How am I not taking the job? And I left there And the next morning I woke up and I was like, you know what? I just had this feeling like it's not right. And there was a chance professionally that I was going to get moved up at Central Connecticut. One of our guys might be leaving. It could be I've been like a 22-year-old full-time assistant coach on the court, recruiting, the whole deal. So there was that part of it. So that swayed me to stay. And so that was probably this time of year. It was mid to late May. I'm going through the Clemson thing and I don't take it. So now I'm going back to Central Connecticut. And the end of June, we're having camp and Megan Phelps comes to work our camp. And now she's my wife. And I wouldn't have been there. Right. And how much that has, I don't even know professionally what that did, for my career, didn't do for my career. But in terms of being a father, being a husband, having a great family, 3 great kids, having a great, family of in-laws, her whole, from her parents to her siblings to, her cousins to her aunts, uncles, like her grandparents, like they're all like, it was just supposed to be. And I just go back to that moment, right? Of like, if I just go like, I'm going to Clemson and I take Clemson and I'm here and I'm just there, who knows what that looks like. Right. And maybe there's a professional journey that takes me to even greater heights or whatever, but I'm not as happy, right? I'm not, really happy as a father and as a husband. So, and even all the struggles that we had to go through, being an assistant, making no money, getting married, she's moving up to Niagara, can't get a job. We had Philip. Now we're, young parents with one measly income up there trying to make it work. And it was hard. Like there were a lot of really tough moments we've had over these years, but it all led us to this point. And it's like, again, it just was like, all of it was for a reason. Like it all kind of swung us. And plenty of days you're banging your head against the wall going like, man, like, but that's always the moment I go back to that, I'm like, everyone would have been like, you're not going to turn that job down to go back to Central Connecticut. I don't know if the other 99.9% would do that. Right. They probably wouldn't. And something just pulled me to stay. And it was, for my life, it's probably been the best decision I've ever made.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of voices out there that say always push for the best thing, the greatest thing. And, I've got the jobs too where I thought, like we were talking about at 22, I should have this job. This is mine. I'm made for it. And I didn't get it. And just how different so many steps beyond that would be. But I think that pursuit of accomplishment, when you think about calibrating, balancing your life, there is the strong family side. In this 2026 version of men's college basketball, how are you wrestling with those two realities, the family life and the professional, the push for excellence, results, recruits, nonstop? And yet, from every outside appearance, at least, and from hearing you talk about it, it sounds like family is still the bedrock of your personal life. So what's that like for you?
It's a balance, right? Like it's a constant balance. I think and what I love here and my previous spots were pretty good at this too. Like we can blend the two together, right? So it's not uncommon to have my kids in here, shooting, working out, whatever it is. Earlier today, my wife was here for a little bit, we were having a meeting with some people and, so you're able to blend that together and keep that, keep those lines blurred, right? And not make it like, well, this is the professional side and this is the personal side. So being able to blend those together is really important and will always be really important to me. When we can get families on trips with us and, kids around. And I think it's important for our players to see that, right? Like they need to see that. They need to see you as a person. They can't just see you as this coach who's a robot, who's just X's and O's and playing time and all that. Like they got to know, like there's a human side to you. It's like growing up, like your teachers, you think are these cyborgs that just come and teach. And then like you see them in the grocery store and you're like, that's Mrs. So-and-so in the grocery store. Like, yeah, she's like a person too. So you don't want that, right? So, that's important. Being able to just go be dad, is really important to me, right? So if it's being able to go watch the kids play anything, right? Like right now we're Little League Baseball, it's flag football, it's basketball, it's whatever, like just going and watching and just being dad, right? Just sitting out there at the Little League game and just watching the game and not being in the dugout coaching and saying, well, you gotta, like, no, it's just, I'm just there enjoying the game, right? I'm just enjoying my kid playing, my kid's having fun, and having those moments, right? Like the moments of whatever. I got the kids in the car and we can go get something to eat together. We can just laugh and joke and whatever. Like, we're home watching TV. It's not, okay, I'm home and now I'm in front of my computer watching game film like 24/7. No, like there's times it is, but really being able to have those moments and knowing how important those moments are. And now they've gotten older and it's like, now it's different. I come home and they're just in their rooms on their devices and I'm like, all right, like, can we have some moments together? But, but finding that time and knowing how important that time is. And I was lucky because I grew up, again, it's a different time now in college basketball, but, watching my dad do it as an assistant and then as a head coach and knowing what that feels like as a coach's kid, right? Knowing the pressure that you feel of that, knowing that you feel the pressure of the house of like, hey, they just lost and now the house is a little quieter, right? Like, but also knowing like my kids got to climb up that, if they're getting to climb up that ladder 2 years in a row, once in the America East and once in the 10 and cut down a net on a championship court. That's not common, right? Like that's a core memory that they will have that a very, very small percentage of people will ever have, right? Again, knowing from that perspective what that looks like and feels like. And now being on the other side of it and being able to see it and know what they're kind of feeling, know that when we're at the open practice at the NCAA tournament, they're on the court of an NCAA court in this huge arena with all these people around and like they get to be out there and see the joy that they get, from that. It stirs up emotion for me, honestly. Like I feel it now. Like I can feel that, it's just a really special thing that we get to share. And it helps that they are really into it. If they weren't, then you're finding ways to connect with them other ways, right? Okay. I know guys whose kids are into different things, different sports or different activities or theater or chorus or whatever. And it's like, all right, you got to go connect with that and enjoy what they enjoy. Right. And we're fortunate that they're pretty into this, but they have other interests too. And it's like, all right, how do we dive into those things when we can?
Don't just have 3 kids. You're developing and cultivating a dozen plus young men. What's that look like for you as a coach, directing and leading this program to develop them with some of the same lessons that you picked up along the way?
I think the biggest thing is the example that you set. And it's easy to use those keywords and those phrases and those different things. And, there was something I have it in my phone somewhere, like I heard on a podcast one time about like, good leaders use like, slides, great leaders use whatever, but like the best leaders, just it's an example that they set. So it's constantly thinking about that, right? Like I can't ask them to sacrifice certain things where I'm not sacrificing. I can't ask them to, be consistent and then I'm not consistent. I can't ask them to, be on time and not be on time. I can't ask them to, whatever it is. Like I can't ask that of anybody in this building, of the staff, the players, whoever, if I'm not going to live that in my own life. So it's taking on that responsibility and knowing, and that doesn't mean like there's sometimes I hear people say like, well, the head coach can't have a bad day. No, the head coach can have a bad day. That's what a normal human being has a bad day, but it's how do you deal with having that bad day? Yeah. Right? Like, I think that's really where we're at. It's like, and showing them that, right? Like I'm the first guy to get in that film session and show them a clip and say, whose fault is this? And they'll look around and then somebody will give you a sheepish answer of like, well, if he had been in the corner, I'm like, no, whose fault is this? Well, if he had gone, no, whose fault is this? I go, it's my fault. I screwed that up. And it's okay for them to know that. I think it's important for them to know that. Like, we're going to get in there and I'm going to tell you where, hey, you should have been here and you should have been there. But like, I'm also going to show you like, I messed that up. We should have been doing this. We were doing the other thing. That was my fault. Right. So you again, that idea of like, well, your coach and your best player can't have a bad day. No, they're going to have a bad day. Right. How do you react to that? And I think setting that example is the biggest deal, right? You can go down there with all the code words and the phrases and read this article and read this book and tell me how you feel about it. And, you got to live this life like this. Like, and quite frankly, there's a lot of coaches that do that. There's a lot of leaders that do that, right? That are like, we're going to be disciplined. And then you like read about them like, well, he's not so disciplined. Like he's doing this and doing that. He's not. So I can't ask them for discipline and not be disciplined myself. I can't ask them for consistency and not be consistent. And To me, it's that more than anything else. It's like setting that example and then having that open communication with them. Where like I'll tell them all the time that you can tell me where I messed up. Like it doesn't have to be me. Like, coach, why did we, you know what? You're right. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. Watching it now, you're 100% right. And that's okay. Like that vulnerability of like, yeah, I'm wrong too sometimes, a lot of times. Right. And the times I'll tell them like, man, you saved me right there. Like everyone thinks that was some great play we drew up. Like I drew up a crappy play. You made a great play. It looks like a great play. And everybody's going like, man, that was a great play. Like, yeah, it was them. He made the play. The player made the play. And making sure that they know that too. But hey, I appreciate you guys, for what you're doing too.
Yeah, that's good. One of my favorite takeaways from the creativity course in the business school that I've taught is about mistakes. And I think we have this drive towards perfection and always showcasing this perfect view. And wherever that comes from, I've got a few ideas of how that gets born in us. But the research shows the best teams, the highest performing teams, are the ones who talk about their mistakes. They put it all out there. It's not a blame game. It's, hey, this is what is, and let's all put our hands on deck and solve it. And if we can solve it, then you end up building the kind of culture that in 1 year, you're winning the conference championship, going to the NCAA tournament, knocking off UNC, and making a name for yourself, it's exciting teaching here at VCU to see that kind of example and investment, the intentionality come to fruition after just a year.
I'm fascinated with failure. Like I have things on my phone of, all these people that we look at and say like, man, that person is a huge success. And you think that they just got there, right? You think it just like happened. And, another big word for us is resilience, right? Like that's, to me, is the biggest indicator of success is people who are resilient, right? It's not failing. It's failing and responding to the failure. And so like I have these things on my phone of, this billionaire, guy that created some company that's, biggest in the world. And it's a thing and it says like he had 29 businesses that failed before this one. And he lost all his money and he was, on his last legs and it worked, right? Like all these different things. And it's amazing when you look through it and you find, Abraham Lincoln, right? Like we sit here and say like one of, if not the greatest president of all time. And you look at his failures, like lost this election, lost that election. He was blah, 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 like, and it's just like people like that we just know the success and we see the success. But when you dive into it, you're like, there was so much failure there, but they responded every time. And, we talk about that with the guy, like, when there's time to handle success, this is how we need to handle success. When we fail, this is how we have to handle failure. And I just think that's such a big part of it, right? Because like you said, the mistakes are going to happen. Yeah. It's life. It's human. I'm going to make one, in the next probably 5 minutes, right? Before we get off this, I'll make some mistake, but it's like, how do you respond to that, react to that? And that was a big deal for us this year and will continue to be a big deal in the program. It's like, no one's expecting perfection, not sitting here saying we're going to make every shot. We're never going to turn the ball over. We're going to get every defensive assignment right. We're going to get an A in every class. We're going to, do all of these things 100% right. I'm not expecting that. Honestly, that would burn you out, just trying to get that every day. But it's like, hey, when we get one, how do we hit that and figure it out, right? How do we fix it right now today and not let things linger so that, one mistake, like I tell them on defense, right? This is little X's and O's. Like defensively, I'm like, one mistake can hurt you. It's the second mistake that kills you, right? So like for us in the game, it could be, all right, one mistake could be me getting beat off the dribble. Guy gets by me and beats me off the dribble. Well, if you're not where you're supposed to be next, that's the second mistake. That's what's going to kill us. The first mistake, we can adjust it, right? Like we get beat off the dribble, they drive into you. Okay, you're there to help. They got to get rid of the ball. And then we can scramble out and adjust. Again, if I don't do my job and then you don't do your job, we both make mistakes. That's when we're giving up 2 points, right? And that's a trivial basketball example, but in life, it's kind of the same, right? Like you can kind of navigate the first mistake. But then if we just go domino effect and we're all making the mistake, well, then that's when it ultimately hurts you.
And when you don't learn from that mistake and do different next time.
Yes.
Let's wrap on this. When one of your players turns 35, or we'll say 40, and looks back, what do you hope they have Coach Martelli's voice in their ear that they're hearing as a 35, 40-year-old?
Well, I hope that they know that I care deeply about them as people and not just players. Again, I always say, like, it's easy to care about number 5 when number 5 gets 20 and 10, right? He gets 20 points and 10. Everybody cares about number 5, but do you care about the person, right? And it's the first meeting I had with all the guys last year when I got the job, and brought them up to the office and sat them down and said, "Who are you? Like, tell me about you," right? And sitting there with Michael Bell, and like, "Tell me about Michael." And he started, "Well, I'm a power forward. No. I know all that. I know the basketball. I'm looking at you. Like, who are you? Where'd you come from? How'd you grow up? What's your family like? So really caring about the people, right? 1 through whatever we have, 13, 14, 15, whatever the number is, caring about them all. Knowing that, yes, someone's going to be your leading scorer and someone's not going to play, and there'll be guys that fit in somewhere in between that, and not just caring about the top guys or whatever. So I hope that they know that. I hope that they know that he genuinely cared about, me as a person. And then I hope from there, it's just all those things we talked about, like, show up every day, be consistent every day, and have that resilience every day, right? And knowing that when you fail, like, it's not just you just trying to battle. Like, we're all here for you, to prop you up and help you figure it out, right? That you don't have to go about it alone. That just like in basketball and team sports, like, when a mistake is made, like, we can all fix that mistake. It's not just you out there, like, well, let me just figure this out by myself. Like, we're all here to help that and fix that. And I think those would be the things that I really want them to kind of carry on with them. That they were cared about, that if you show up every day the right way, eventually things work out the way they're supposed to.
Good. Well, thanks for the conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the New Generation Leader podcast. Subscribe today on your podcasting platform. Download the show notes and unlock your true leadership potential at newgenerationleader.fm. Thanks for listening today, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the New Generation Leader podcast.